There's a quick view of my dog. So, you having fun, Rain? Huh? She's like, why aren't we going faster? No, but I wanted to talk a little bit about how now that we're nearing the end of January, or by the time you see this, it might be February. So it's kind of the period of time where people quit on their fitness resolutions. You know, I'm already starting to see it now in the third week of January where people are just kind of dwindling when I do go into a gym. I don't think that people go in with bad intentions or the intention of quitting necessarily, and yet they still fall off every year. I think the first thing that you need to think about, really the thing that you need to think about most, besides doing a form of exercise that you actually enjoy, because if you hate it, you're never going to do it. So don't even bother. If you hate running, don't start running unless you think that you will start to like running at some point or there's some kind of masochistic enjoyment of it. Just don't force yourself to do something that you don't like, because exercise is a form of recreation ultimately. Yeah, it is a healthy practice. It is something you should do, like brushing your teeth, but it also is a form of relaxation and recreation. A lot of it comes down to sustainability. I don't really believe in any of that tough guy, man it out, you gotta grit your teeth and go through it because it's horrible kind of thing. I think that you can do that if you have a goal that requires you to grit your teeth and kind of buckle down. So it's not that that's an entirely worthless thing, but I don't think that really applies to the average person at all, in terms of their mindset, which is that they need to exercise because they know they need to exercise, and there's not an external motivator or like a huge overhead goal like the necessity of a profession, the necessity of being a competitive athlete, etc. There's not an external pressure that's keeping you going. So then the only thing that's going to keep you exercising, if you're the average person in this situation, is being intrinsically motivated. And that's pretty hard. I mean, it's not really that easy, because that just means that you have to be finding some sort of motivation. And so really there's two things that I think matter more than anything else when it comes to exercise. The first is making it a sustainable thing, which means like you're actually capable of doing it. And the second is making it a habit. You want to structure it into your lifestyle rather than structuring your lifestyle around exercise. It's much easier to build into what you're already doing, which means that if you only have 20 minutes 3 days a week to exercise, then that's the kind of exercise program you need to be implementing. You should not be trying to train for a marathon if you literally don't have enough daylight hours to go out and run it. And yet you see people in the new year be totally unrealistic with what they're actually capable of doing on a daily basis. And it's like, yeah, everybody could change their routine for a week or two, but if you can't sustain this routine, you're completely wasting your time. People are biting off way more than they can chew. And there's nothing wrong with being realistic and just saying, okay, well, I could probably exercise for 20-30 minutes. I can do a basic conditioning thing. I can do basic mobility work and cardio, and get enough strength that I don't, break my back just like falling down the stairs or something like that. But I think if you're realistic, and if you just do a little bit and you make this a habit and you make it a part of your lifestyle and a part of your identity, you're actually going to do it. And that's the difference. So the person who goes into New Year's and is like, I need to exercise consistently, and I just need to do a little bit consistently, is 90% of the time going to way outperform and way outlast the person who's like, I have this really ambitious goal starting from nothing. You can increase your goals over time as you become more fit and if your lifestyle allows it, but you have to start small and then build it up incrementally. I think also with sustainability, you need to, like, exercise is uncomfortable, and I think we don't talk about that enough, where it's like, yeah, it's a physical exertion. If you're doing, not all exercise, not like light exercise isn't necessarily uncomfortable, but if you're not used to training, you're going to get some whiplash when you realize, like, oh, I'm going to be uncomfortable most of the time when I'm exercising, especially at the beginning. And you really don't ever get to a point where you're never uncomfortable unless you have just kind of stopped doing progressive overload, which I wouldn't recommend. So you need to build in a way to make that discomfort tolerable and acceptable in the long term. You need to have enough rewards built into this practice that it's not ultimately just a painful thing that you're going to avoid doing. So an example, again, I'll just go back to rucking because I am rucking currently, so it's on my mind. So my legs are pretty toast because I'm about a half hour into this rucking workout, and so my hips and my legs are feeling the exertion, basically. If I was just doing this in the absence of other enjoyable things and all I had to focus on was that this really painful thing, the feeling of discomfort in my legs, and I didn't have music or a podcast, I didn't have nice scenery, I didn't have a dog that would distract me, then I wouldn't really be able to keep doing it. Another thing is, social thing for a lot of people. A lot of times it's easier to do something uncomfortable if you have a training partner or like a class or a group that you attend things with. I think that's one of the reasons that you see people who maybe aren't going to have an easy time sustaining an exercise habit on their own suddenly join a class and they're there every week. You see that all the time. Like, we are social creatures. And so rather than getting into this punitive mindset of exercise where it's just a chore, it's another errand you have to do, it's something to check off the box, which I'm not going to lie, sometimes it is. You're not going to go into every workout feeling fabulous and like motivated, but you need to get outside of that punitive mindset in general, and understand that like you're trying to make this as enjoyable as possible. You're trying to make it as sustainable as possible. And then lo and behold, you'll see that the people who do the exercise that they find fulfilling and that they can do on at least most weeks, if not every week, you'll find that those are the ones who manage to maintain their fitness goals and actually make it to the next year having accomplished those resolutions.